couple of our previous guests, we asked them and we said, who from your generation would have been a 10 million rand buy in the SA20 auction? And the name Adrian Kuiper came out. So I'm sitting with the man Adrian Kuiper now, and I'm saying to him
I'll
right
give you
now,
my bank account details.
we'll send it on to Graham. And so I've got to ask you, if you in your peak career, and the SA20 was around, and the money that's going around for players, would you have been a 10 million rand man?
I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Look, I mean, it was the type of game that I enjoyed and I thrived in. So, I was involved from a fielding perspective, bowling and batting, and I enjoyed it. So I don't know what my value was. We'll never know, eh?
We might just have a mock auction and put your name in the hat.
Make it mock.
Welcome to The Biggest Man in Cricket with your host, David Brooke.
Adrian Kuiper, as the sun shines on your farm out here in Elgin. It's an absolute honour and a privilege to be sitting with you in your beautiful home. Thank you for welcoming the biggest man in cricket to your home. It's I always knew that you were a farmer, and nobody ever knew the name of the farm or anything like that. But to be here today is absolutely brilliant. To see you in the flesh. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, and welcome to you. It's a bit of memory from the past, perhaps.
The name Adrian Kuiper, this nostalgia just comes over us. Do you realize that?
No. I had, it's an interesting thing. I sort of had two lives. I had my cricket life, which was there, and then I had a home life and a farm life. And so it was, I never lingered in towns, or I came home. So I wasn't exposed to public and emotions from public other than when you were on the field, and then you were so focused on the game that you were playing. Every now and then, obviously, you realize that people recognize you, but perhaps not to the extent that you say.
Yeah.
And thanks for the kind words.
Let's go back to kind of where it all started, if you can remember that far. You were born in Johannesburg, but eventually kind of relocated, went to school in Cape Town.
That's right, yeah. I was at St. John's through my primary years. Played Transvaal primary schools. Okay. We played in Kimberley. The only guy who I can remember who played with me there was Clive Wolfson.
Okay.
Who, if you might recall, he went to Eastern Province and then Natal and was involved in cricket for a while. And then went to Bishops in Cape Town, yeah.
Did any of your teammates at Bishops go on to play for Province, or were you the...
Yeah, Richie Ryle and I together.
Wow.
We played for many years, so we're very close friends. And
still to this day?
Still to this day, we see a lot of each other.
Oh, the Richie Ryle, the legendary wicketkeeper turned artist. Which I suppose makes sense for you guys to be mates, because you were a legendary cricketer turned apple farmer. So completely different careers.
Yes, yeah. We've just got on as old school mates and teammates, and as families we've been close through the years.
I think that kind of those bonds that your generation of cricketers played in domestic cricket, because you weren't traveling as much, so you were at Newlands all the time with your teammates, and that became friendship.
That was your life.
Bond. That was
your life. And I think that amateur time of that era. We were like that, and some are very good friends and some are just friends there, but that team was there. It's surely no different to these days. It's just
I think with the travel these days is that a lot of the domestic players are traveling with the Proteas or to other leagues, so they're away 6 months of the year, so you don't get to cultivate those friendships
possibly
as much as days gone by. Just give us, who was some of the guys around in that Western Province team when you first started out? You started your amateur career straight from school, or was it during school you were already playing?
No, after school. I played 1 or 2 games for Western Province B, a couple of games, and then for Western Province A. At that time, Hilton Ackerman was captain. Eddie Barlow was away at Packer at the World Series.
Yeah.
And then he came back and he was captain for a year. And then Peter Kirsten took over, and there was Peter Kirsten and Garth LaRue, Stephen Jeffries, Eric Simons, Lawrence Seif, Roy Pinar was. We were similar age. It was great fun. I started Gavin Fuel, Peter Swart. I played with them a long time back.
At least you can remember them, which is great.
Yeah, it was wonderful times. It was, wouldn't be bad having it all over again.
Yeah, geez, I tell you, that Western Province side. Obviously, I'd like to talk about the rivalry with Transvaal at the time, because the Western Province Transvaal Mean Machine versus Western Province was absolutely legendary. Like, just take us through.
It was tough on us. I mean, Clive Rice led a great team. I mean, they did have a great team, and it was tough playing against them because, they, for no reason, a very good reason, they had the name of the Mean Machine. They were a great team, and Clive was a tough captain and hard player. And they were bringing in Graham Pollock into their mix, and Kelly Turan and Sylvester Clark and Vince van der Bijl, all pulling together with Fotheringham and Cook and Jennings, Radford, Hugh Page. They were great cricketers, wonderful cricketers, and they were not easy to beat. Not easy to beat. We only had the odd one every now and then, but we enjoyed it. It was great rivalry. We used to go to the Wanderers knowing that it's going to be a green top, and then we'd come to Cape Town. They would know it's going to be a flatty, and they'd put in the extra spinner, which never paid dividends for them. But it was great fun. And what was amazing in those days was every time you played a 4-day game, a first-class game, the stadium were full. And it must be very tough to play provincial cricket now in an empty stadium.
I remember going to a Titans versus Western Province game at Newlands a couple of years ago, and in that team it was Dean Elgar, it was Aidan Markram, Western Province had guys like Rory Kleinfeld, Vernon Philander playing, and I was like, there's no people in the crowd, and I found that quite hard for the players to motivate themselves. Because ultimately they're trying to play for test matches, They're trying to get in the Proteas reckoning, but to play in front of an empty crowd and you raise your bat with your century, and
it's just
the groundsman and your 2 cousins that live in Cape Town are there, So
it's I think it must be very tough.
Yeah, but I mean that rivalry and a packed crowd and that New Year's 4-day match between Transvaal must have been, what did it like? It was something that I'm thinking about. I know it's a strange question, but what did that ground smell like? Like, did it smell like, what did it smell like?
Only when the northwester blew a little bit, then you got the yeasty smell from the brewery.
Yeah.
But generally the southeaster was blowing it in the other direction.
Yeah.
No, I think it was that excitement which you would get in a test match, in a real good test match, an Australia-South African test match. That excitement was the same feeling, and I would think the smell that you would get, and you just it was an excitement because this was the real challenge coming up there. The stadium was full. There was the buzz around the ground.
And then obviously the Benson Hedges, the 1-day stuff was that 40 overs at the time?
It was 40 overs. Yeah.
I mean, that also, again, no Proteas that time. It was still during the isolation period.
Correct.
Domestic cricket was the only the pinnacle.
Yep, it was, and the marketing was brilliant. It brought in the people.
Absolutely, that marketing was legendary. We still talk about this today, where it was. I remember that Benson Hedges poster, just cooking or like cooking with gas, and it was a Jimmy Cook poster, which was amazing. Like, what was it? Can you remember those times?
There was that were great. You're talking about the market, it was wonderful, but the Benson Hedges was an exciting, and for me as a youngster, I always saw it as an earning opportunity because there was a best fielder and a best bowler and a best batter.
Yeah.
And I thought, geez, if I can just win one of those, it's 200 runs. So as a reasonable fielder, I used to try and position myself somewhere on the boundary at the end where I could maybe get a catch or two. And then you always had a chance because I was bowling and batting. So
what were the guys earning at that time from the unions?
no, you got a bit of pocket money.
Was it? It was
covered
cash.
your
Wasn't,
fuel No, you got a salary,
Okay.
a small salary, and for me, though, it covered my travelling costs. So that was about it.
I was saying, I mean, you never lived that side of town ever.
No,
You always travelled
it was
from.
daily travel which started in October.
Yeah.
And every day through to Cape Town for practice and weekends and backwards and forwards. And
You do know that sounds ridiculous.
it's
isn't
mad.
it? Looking back on it
mad.
now, like,
How I did it, I really don't know.
Yeah.
And I remember a doctor friend of mine saying to you, "You're going to burn yourself out, chap." I think I did. But it was, it was my life. I loved it. If I had a regret, is that, when I finished school, there wasn't professional sport in this country.
yeah,
And it was almost, you're too stupid to do anything else and you're going to be a professional sportsman because there was no money in it.
yeah,
And I wasn't in that sort of position to be, I didn't see myself traveling over to go and play in England as a county player and probably I should have. I would have been a better cricketer for it. So it was what we did. And if I had a regret, is that I didn't play more. I had one season for Derbyshire, but I was already 30. And I just know that I would have, by playing so much more, I would have learned so much more. They used to play 20 odd first-class games in a season or more, and we would play 8. So that's 3 seasons in one season.
yeah.
If you play in England, and you just become a better, you just understand the game so much better.
Absolutely. We actually spoke about it with Jimmy Cook in a previous episode where he spoke about his 3 years. And when I was looking at his stats for Somerset over 3 years, he scored 7,000 runs in 3 years, which was, I had to relook at it going like, surely that's not right. I mean, he
scored a lot of runs. He was already a very experienced cricketer, but he applied that there and he just accumulated runs.
No, that must have been an incredible time. Take us through the, obviously, so domestic cricket was, but then we were starting to not necessarily come back into international cricket, but then the Rebel Tours happened. How did that come about? And you were obviously one of the big name players in South African cricket at the time. To be called up to that team, who even?
Well, I just finished university and I was working here on the farm. And my father came to me and he says, "Oh, well done." I was in an orchard somewhere. I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "No, you've been picked to play in the SA under 25 or under 23 team.
Yeah.
You're captaining that against an England rebel team." I said, What are you talking about? I had no idea what was all about. Then he showed me this had been announced that they were arriving, and it was a young team going to play in Pretoria. And that was it. So that rebel side came here.
Graham Gooch, I think.
Graham Gooch, yeah. And I was lucky enough to play in a couple of some of those games. Didn't do particularly well in the test. I played 2 test matches, I think. I didn't do very well in those. Had a bit of success in the one-day stuff against them. And then the next Rebels tours was the West Indies, and then Sri Lanka, and then England again. And Australia for 2 years.
Who organised those tours? Was it?
That was all Ali.
Oh, it was all Ali.
The doctor.
Yeah.
So I never played against Australia. I had a bit of a slump and I was out of it. I don't know what happened. One of those things.
They made up for it in the white.
And then I came back in against the last English rebel side.
Okay.
Yeah.
That must have been, and then that was kind of like.
That was Gatting's team.
Yeah. Then coming, we spoke to Jimmy about it as well, about how that was being part of that pioneer side that came back into international cricket. It obviously was a little bit, you were a bit older at the time, and Jimmy alluded to the fact that he knew that he wasn't going to get a lot of it, but he knew that it was what they were doing, what that team was doing, was setting it up for the next generation of guys coming through.
Yeah, look, I think at that stage, I'm not sure who the convener of selectors was. He wasn't keen on the older players, and it played through into the World Cup in '92.
Yeah,
And initially Peter Kirsten wasn't in the squad.
I remember that. Yeah,
Jimmy Cook didn't make it,
and
he should have been.
Yeah,
Clive Rice wasn't. That was maybe he was not very. He was probably 42 already, somewhere there. Yeah, he would have been 42.
Yeah.
So it was margin, but experience counts at the World Cup. You need experience,
100%,
and I think Jimmy would have done very well there. But yeah, I think we went off to India in '90. After the English Rebel Gattings lot, I then went to play for Derbyshire, and while I was in Derbyshire, it was announced that we were going back in, and we were going to play against India, and we'd been invited to the World Cup.
Yeah.
So it all became quite exciting.
And I read somewhere about just 1-6 that you hit in India, that the crowd raised, stood up for you, gave you a standing ovation, because they'd never seen an attacking player like this with just such confidence to attack. That must have been surreal.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah. Now listen, I mean, your attacking game, and I'm sure you don't need me to tell you this, you were ahead of your time. But where did that attacking game come from? Because they didn't play like that in South Africa.
I don't know. I really don't know, because it's just how I played. And I recall at school we had a coach from England, John Spencer, at Bishop's, and he said to me, "Come on, when you go and bat, just build an inning. Start slowly, and just build the inning." And I went there and I blocked and I blocked and I blocked. I don't know what to do. I just and then I got out.
It wasn't natural to you.
I didn't know. I wasn't playing my own game, and I then also went to one of my first practices at Newlands at Western Province, and the spin bowler came on and I smacked him over there, and the next one came and I smacked him over there, and Eddie Bowler ran down the wicket and said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I said, I didn't know what to say, but that's how I played.
Yeah.
And we didn't, so it became quite difficult for me to adapt, because I thought I must play differently when I was picked, and I didn't know how to play differently.
Yeah.
So, but where it came from, I have no idea. It was just how I played. And if I saw it, I must hit it.
It worked for you. And I think that's what endeared you to the public, was this guy came in and he just played attacking game that, Kepler was very methodical. He built that innings, he was lovely to watch, but he was never going to dismantle an attack. You came in and could dismantle an attack in one over. Yeah. And we'll talk about that famous over just now, but it was incredible to see. It was exciting cricket where it was like, wow, okay, we had never seen this before. I was looking at your stats, and your strike rate in one-day cricket was, I think it was 81. But compared to an Alan Border, who I remember seeing that the 92 World Cup and his stats came up, his strike rate at the time, he'd played 250 ODIs with only about 70. So, obviously he played less ODIs, but the strike rate was already 10 above an Alan Border.
Yeah. So
it was completely out there. It was ahead of its time, before the Lance Kluseners and those kind of guys. You set up that era.
I don't know what to say.
Humble as well.
Yeah.
So let's just carry on about that World Cup, because that's where a lot of our viewers and listeners would have really seen international cricket for the first time. I remember being at school at the time, and we played against Australia, that famous game against Australia. Take us through just what was going on in that change room before the World Cup. You had got in there, South Africa were the new darlings of international cricket. There was a lot of pressure on. First ball, Donald bowls to, I think, Jeff Marsh, and definitely out. Not even dispute, but let me hear from you. Yeah. Was it out?
No, I said, look, there's not even a doubt. I just think it was, Aldrich, was it? the umpire.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he just froze. There's no way that the first ball of the World Cup is out. It just can't be.
Yeah.
And I think he just froze. And and by the time he realized that he'd made a mistake, it was too late. He couldn't suddenly say, "No, that's out."
He
There was
couldn't,
no referral, anything. It was just an absolute freeze on his behalf. Anyway, the game went on. It was interesting. Kepler was captain, and the day before, 2 days before, he'd brought an Australian, I don't know the man's name or who he was, but he was a bit of a motivational
Guru
speaker.
kind of,
Yeah, guru. And he knew Australian cricket quite well, and he told us they're very vulnerable. But what took us through that was the experience of Wessels and Kirsten.
Yeah.
Those were the two guys who performed in that game with the runs. They took us through comfortably, and the bowling of Donald and everybody else. But yeah, it was a wonderful kickoff for us because it boosted our confidence and belief. We still made some very silly errors in selection and things like halfway through putting me into open against the Sri Lankans when I'd never opened in a one-day international before.
Yeah.
And the better place for me would have been to open against the fast bowlers, not the spin bowlers.
Gotcha.
I was a better player of quick bowling. Anyhow, there were a number of issues, things that we got wrong. And with all due respect, I don't think, even though we needed what was 22 of 13, these days that's a walk in the park.
Yeah.
Those days we didn't score more than 7 and over or 8 and over. So would we have got there? Probably not. I'd got out at a bad time as well. And I had 34 or something. Should never have got out. Happens.
That's all in hindsight.
But it was so close. And then when you watched the final with Pakistan and Wasim Akram bowling England out, and he was a class act.
Yeah, that ball
he was
swinging.
He was just a reverse swinging. He's just a class act. He really was.
That World Cup was amazing, and you downplay your role in that match against Australia, but you took 2 wickets and 2 balls, including that famous in-swinger and against Alan Border to get him out first ball. That was your celebration. I think you probably looked like you might have injured yourself in that celebration, but that for me, that I will always remember that dismissal. That really just if you had the sound waves in South Africa at that moment, it would have been through the roof.
Yeah, a friend of mine they had a whole group of them got together here on this farm, in his office up here, and it was, I think, early in the morning at 2 or 3 in the I don't know what time it was, but anyway, they had, and the agreement was for every wicket they were going to have a beer. That set them off quickly.
By 7 o'clock when they needed
they were busy.
work, that was it. But
it was great fun.
What was the press like? What was the media like? I mean, obviously South Africa, that was the first time playing in a World Cup.
We were kind of, I think they kept us away from, tried as much as possible, focus on what you're doing and let management and captain deal with press. Otherwise it could get a bit messy because because we weren't experienced enough. It's things can happen that you don't need to happen. And so I think it was, we kind of just got on with the game, with playing cricket, I think. I would have liked to have had it all again. I think from my personal point of view, I was still, here we are as just provincial cricketers, and now we're playing against all these guys who've been in Wisden magazines and the cricketers, and these are the best cricketers in the world. Sometimes you just need to feel yourself out a bit in that environment, just get your own self-belief. And I think the more experienced chaps who'd played in county cricket already had that. The Alan Donalds and Kirsten and Wessels and a few others.
It was. What was the change room like when that semi-final happened? We were all emotional here in South Africa, and it was before Duckworth Lewis and before the system. I mean, it always that bloody scoreboard is still etched in my memory there. And Brian Mack and those guys, Dave Richardson. What actually went on?
No, there was obviously huge sadness because we was just so close, yet it just was gone. And you can't have it again. the moment's been and done. And I got caught with my pants down, as you might remember, and ended up with a towel. The guys went out in the field. I'd finished batting. I'd taken my kit off, and I was standing there. And next thing, everyone was going out onto the field, so I just grabbed the towel. But yeah, it was one of those moments. You know, we'd done so well, and you know, to have gone all the way through would have been incredible, but it just wasn't to be. Yeah.
Do you think, in a way, that moment in history endeared South Africa to the world, and when your team came back, there was this love for this Proteas team that had obviously never been there before, but it just set up the Proteas brand.
I think
almost.
You know, there was exactly that, and you know, in the great Jonty moment, of course, that's still there.
I mean,
that was
he's made a career out of India because of that now.
Yeah, isn't it great? But it, you know, I think you're right. I think you summed it up. There was this endearment, and I think South African sport does do that. We have the ability to challenge the best.
Dale, we interviewed Dale in a previous episode, and he alluded to the fact that when the Temba and the Test team won the World Test Championship, I asked him, did he feel that there was this weight lifted off the previous generations and all those heartaches? And did you feel that? I mean,
I think, look, I wasn't in. I was actually in Botswana through that Test match, and there's no press there, and I came and we'd won it. I couldn't believe. I was so excited, and you know, there's been a little bit of criticism for the team, but you know that they've got a really very good side. And I just thought they would be undercooked. And I think Australia took them to be a little bit undercooked, and they didn't but what a great performance. And I think, it took a lot of relief and just gratitude that they could have that success. Because there's nothing like success. It's so amazing. I mean, and for them to have it and experience it, I just hope they can carry it through into other forms of the game as well and get another one somewhere.
Definitely. I think that Dale alluded to it as well, that he wanted to, he reckoned that if we won one, there's no stopping. And it's nice to see. I mean, KG Rabada's talking about, like, there's no fear in this side, which I think from a world cricket point of view for South Africa, like, teams better watch out. I think, you know, like...
Yeah, there's some good players, eh?
Yeah.
Very good players.
I know you don't watch too much these days, but just in world cricket or in South African cricket, are there players that you enjoy watching? Do you watch Test matches or do you watch SA20?
I do watch the top Test players, and I would love to watch when South Africa is playing, whether it's India or England or Australia. And there's like a series now with India and England.
Yeah.
What wonderful cricket, magnificent cricket, and to take it through 5 days every time was great. So I don't watch a lot, but every now and then when I'm stimulated by good quality, absolutely. And then on last year with the SA20 was also so exciting to see our players, the South African guys, performing, you know, and really coming to the fore. And not just watching the international guys.
Yeah, that is too, for those youngsters coming through. You look at some of those guys that are getting a lot in those auctions. A couple of our previous guests, we asked them and we said, who from your generation would have been a 10 million rand buy in the SA20 auction? And the name Adrian Kuiper came out. So I'm sitting with the man Adrian Kuiper now, and I'm saying to him,
I'll
right
give
now,
you my bank account details.
we'll send it on to Graham. And so I've got to ask you, if you in your peak career, and the SA20 was around, and the money that's going around for players, would you have been a 10 million rand man?
I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Look, I mean, it was the type of game that I enjoyed and I thrived in. So, I was involved from a fielding perspective, bowling and batting, and I enjoyed it. So I don't know what my value was. We'll never know, eh?
We might just have a mock auction and put your name in the hat.
Don't make it mock.
No, if you had played T20 cricket, I mean, that would have been that game was made for you, right?
Yeah. Well, I played it on my own.
Yeah,
Nobody
played.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So let's go. You after the World Cup. There's this kind of new South African cricket feeling in the country, and international cricket now comes back to South Africa. 94 Australia, that series, and that famous over, which I think probably gave Craig McDermott psychological damage and emotional damage for years to come.
Look, that was wonderful. It was an absolute treat and a privilege to be involved in those sort of matches and playing against Australians. It was great. At that stage, Hansie was the captain, and Hansie was a magnificent leader. He was really a superb cricketer and a great leader. Sad what happened. And I recall he just came and he said, "Come on, Capes, this is your time." Yeah. And he just knew how to motivate, and anyway, what happened, and it was fun. But it's interesting when you go and you look at that. I mean, we only scored 280, I think it was, and we thought, oh, this is nobody, that's out of reach. Yeah. Well, they weren't far. Alan Border got it very close in the end. I think he was run out. I thought something.
We won by like 50 runs or something.
Not even. It was a bit closer than that. But still. Anyway, the first 3 matches, I think, of that series, they played 3 games, and I think we won them all. And then they had the test matches, and then another 3 games.
I remember they split the
they did
tour up, yeah.
And they changed their whole. They stopped practicing, and they took it very lightheartedly, and they actually came around and I think we leveled the series, which was 2-0, 2-1 in the beginning, and then they won 2-1 in the back, which was quite frustrating because we should have beaten them. But yeah, I wish I'd had more of that. And then I started having injuries, shoulder problems, and unfortunately, that was kind of the end of it for me.
Just take us through that 26 run over. Like every single. I mean, I watched highlights of it, and I want to show you highlights just now around that and just get your reaction about it, because that had not been seen in South African cricket. And Centurion's obviously a ground that you can do that, but it was the final over of the innings, and you took Craig McDermott was a legend of Australian cricket.
I think the nicest part for me was not that day, somewhere else. I was with Merv Hughes, and he says, "Do you always bet like that?" And he says, because he so enjoyed watching McDermott going flying, because he always had an attitude, he said. So it was quite rewarding that, yeah. Dave, I mean, I just did what I did, what I felt I could do, and it came off. And I sort of reveled in those situations of the last couple of overs and letting it go.
And that's where your nickname AK-47 came about, because you scored 47 runs that day, I think, off 22 balls, which was going at a strike rate of over 200 was completely unheard of in one-day cricket at that time.
Yeah.
Where's that AK-47 weapon these days?
No, sadly, it ended up in there. The borer got hold of it.
That would have gone for a lot of money in an auction, I can tell you that. Yeah. We're not at a bootlegger today.
Yeah,
we brought some bootlegger coffee to you out here in
I appreciate
in Elgin, and one of the segments that we have on the show is called the roast, and that involves asking our guests what is one of the famous roast or chirps that you can remember from your career, whether it was you or that you received from that before stump mics were in play. Can you remember any infamous ones?
I remember the only one was we were playing Eastern Province, and they'd worked out that I like to be very friendly on the cricket field. Okay. I didn't like to get angry, or I just like to be friendly. So Kepler told them, don't talk to him, ignore him, and and eventually I worked out what was going on. So I said to Merrick Pringle, he was playing for Eastern Province, then he'd moved over. I said, Pring, I know your game. So I said, hey, Kepler, please tell Pring to talk to me. That was the end of it. That was the end. So no, I like I say, I wasn't a big chirp on the field, and just got and enjoyed myself.
And then your professional career, it ended. Did you feel that it ended prematurely, no. Or did you have more in you?
No, sadly I'd had quite a few rugby injuries, one or two rugby shoulder injuries, which hampered my bowling.
Yeah.
I also had a terrible bowling action, which made it very difficult on my.
It looked good from the outside, but from a
maybe
body.
The final delivery, but not the on the body. It was quite hard. I think I'd done my time. I'd moved to Boland for my last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
I'd had some success at Boland and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I stopped there because I also felt they weren't progressing. They weren't utilizing the capabilities that they had as a province.
Got you.
Paarl, Boland is a source of unbelievable sporting talent.
100%.
And I believe that should be a nurturing school for players that could go out into the rest of the country if need be, but just as a place to nurture and develop.
And sportsmen. They didn't have.
And they just didn't. I didn't see the response or reaction from SA cricket at the time, or Boland in particular. Boland, there was no progress, and I just felt I'm wasting my time. It's time to. I was old enough. I'd been there, done that, and there was a new generation, and I had another life to come and live.
And you never actually went into coaching, am I right?
No, I didn't. I was invited by Western Province to help a little bit on selection, but it just wasn't feasible, practical for me to be involved living out here in Elgin. So that was very short-lived. And I've often thought, but I don't think coaching would be for me. I'm not, I maybe know what to do, but to have that continuous guidance into, I would have struggled with it. I'm too much wanting to do something. I need to do something rather than watch something.
It's very difficult to coach a natural instinct if you have that as your weapon. It was a very natural thing. As you said, you couldn't coach it. It came naturally to you. That's how you started your game. So to coach that would be difficult.
Exactly. Mine was never. You're right. And there's certain players and a lot of players who. They don't need coaching. They need stimulation and development and mentally and challenges. I thrived on challenges. For me, it was always a challenge of, if you look at my times that I scored runs, particularly in the first class game, it was when we were 20 for 3. Then I'd get my 80 or 100 or whatever it was. Yeah. If we were 280 for 3, I'd get a quick 30 or something. I didn't capitalize on the situation of the time.
Yeah.
But for me, it was always the challenge, and that's what I needed more than it was somebody to challenge me.
And did you find that your transition, when you walked away from the game, you didn't really go back into the game. You went straight into you had your farm, you had your farming already.
Family and farm. That was my other life.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate. I mean, I've been very fortunate in life with a lot of things, and I had a wonderful family and place to be and to live my life, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah.
I think I read your nephew and your brother was a former cricketer himself, and your nephew also played
a little bit
Western Province cricket.
Junior, yes, in the junior there.
So the cricket was in the family. The Kuiper name carried on a little bit.
Not very far. Yeah.
So tell me, what does Adrian Kuiper do on a daily basis besides look after what looks like 19 pets here and the apple farms?
Yeah.
What does the day look like for you?
It's a busy day. We apple farms. We also do free range chickens.
Okay.
And then my wife has a business in biological crop protection. So
Oh, wow.
they consult to farmers and basically trying to reduce the amount of chemicals and fertilizer and go into a far more sustainable and just better farming practices. We've been indoctrinated into chemicals in medicine and in agriculture, and it's not very healthy. And so she's in that with my son, and then I'm on the farm here with my son-in-law and daughter. We farm here. And we're busy. The chickens never end. It's continuous, and the fruits has a quieter season in the winter, but it's busy. And there are a lot of people involved, staff members, and we try and enjoy ourselves and produce a quality product. And
Do you export, or is it mainly?
yeah, so the chicken is all local, and the fruit is mainly export.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you've gone from the red ball to the red apple.
The red apples. Yeah, it's interesting that when I started, we used to have Granny Smith, the Golden Delicious, and some Star King. You don't Golden Delicious. There's no market for Golden Delicious, and a little bit for Granny Smith, not in South Africa. And everything is about red apples. It's Pink Lady and Fuji and Sundown and all the red apples. And people want color.
Adrian, we get to a stage in our podcast where we do some quick fire questions. This is the generation that needs quick answers, and they want to, this goes on TikTok, Instagram. You might, I don't think you've got a TikTok account, but
No.
but
What is that? I've heard of it.
Your highlights package would have been a massive hit on TikTok. I'm sure we'll get some of your highlights on. So, but we call it the declaration. It's kind of a few quick fire questions that not yes or no answers, but just like quick answers. First thing that kind of comes to your mind.
Give it a bear.
Your favorite ground to ever bat on?
I thoroughly enjoyed the Wanderers, as well as I did very well in Durban at Kingsmead.
What is the
I think both of those pitches, the ball comes onto the bat, and I liked it when it came onto the bat.
Durban, not so much these days.
Not anymore, not anymore. But back then
in the
it
day.
was, yeah.
One bowler you loved smashing out the park, and is it true that you hit a ball into a train that was driving past Newlands that landed up in...
That one's not me. It might have been somebody else now. I think that's just fairy tales. Who did I enjoy hitting the most? Wow, anybody. But as a younger player, the quicker the bowlers were, I didn't mind the fast bowlers.
Yeah.
I really didn't. The spin bowlers I learnt later on when I went to Paarl.
Yeah.
But who? Gosh, I don't know. No, I would have loved to have smacked Clive Rice anytime. Not that I got much chance to do that.
Yeah.
But we just were great friends and great competitors. And he also went to St. John's, so there was that good rivalry with us.
Nice. The most underrated cricketer of your generation?
Gosh, Stephen Jeffries.
Province bowler.
Yeah. He played a few games in the rebel tests, but he could bowl and he could also bat. Stephen Jeffries.
Nice. The one drink or meal that reminds you of your playing day. Maybe you don't drink it anymore because it reminds you of
passion fruit and soda. But Eric Simons always laughs at Newlands. We used to have a wonderful tea in the afternoon, and they used to make these delicious donuts. And I was an absolute sucker, and I used to say, those are mine.
Love that. We've spoken about the SA20 and your value, but who do you think from your era would have been in that SA20 auction being picked up for big money?
Gee, people don't know how good Graham Pollock and Barry Richards and Mike Proctor were. They were three of possibly the greatest cricketers ever. So Mike Proctor, if you look, he's just passed, but his record was unbelievable. And in one-day cricket, he would have been magnificent. A little bit later than that, Dave Callaghan is another individual who really was a great one-day cricketer and would have fitted into this mold as well.
Absolutely.
T20.
Adrian, we've come to the end of the episode. We could honestly talk for hours. It's quite surreal again to be here this morning in your beautiful home. Thank you very much for welcoming us into your home. I didn't think I'd ever have a situation where Adrian Kuiper would be making me coffee. So that has been amazing. I want to thank you from all of us and my production team. We come from the generation that we're here today because of guys like you. This generation of cricketers that these youngsters coming through don't realize how good you guys were back in the day, and how close you were to all of us from a relatable point of view. We felt like we were there with you guys, that you ignited something in us, that we might be in normal jobs and all that, but the love for the Adrian Kuipers and that kind of era of cricket is right there. And every time, I'm sure when this episode goes out, there's going to be some pulling on some heartstrings and some memories from all generations. And hopefully the young cricketers can see this and go and look at highlights of Adrian Kuiper and go, shit, that was proper. Yeah. And if I can emulate anything, if they can emulate anything that you achieved in your career and trailblazed in your era, then they would have done very well. Just a little gift from our friends who might not be a bootlegger, but they wanted you to have this because they know there's not a bootlegger in Elgin yet, but they are looking at bringing one here. So I know you like your coffee, so
I do.
This is a little single origin coffee for you.
Absolute treat.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all your fans, all our fans of the biggest man in cricket. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, Dave. Well, thank you for the kind words, and it's nice to have welcomed you guys here.
Thank you.
Nice to have some admiring friends.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.